Thank you, everyone, for giving us a little bit of your time this afternoon. I know how busy we all are, and I know how important it is that we stay together and focused in this effort to respond appropriately to our accreditation. So when we call these college forums, when we open the doors for these information sessions, it just really means so much to us that so many of you will take the time to come and to be here. So I do want to thank you for that today. This is kind of an ongoing activity that I think you're going to be able to expect from us throughout the remainder of the spring. We're getting together like this periodically as a whole group. We're going to try to vary the times a little bit to make it possible for more faculty to come and maybe have to do a little less rearranging of classes and so on. But we think it's important to have kind of a steady, consistent dialogue and exchange about where we are in terms of our accreditation and the progress that we're working to continue to make. It's been about a month since we were here together last time, which was around the 13th of February or so, or the week right after, when we actually got the news on our accreditation show cause report. And so a lot has happened in the last few weeks, and we wanted to make sure we brought everyone up to speed on that. As I get started today, though, I don't want to forget to make a couple of introductions. A couple of our College of the Sequoias Board of Trustee members have made the effort to be here today, and I just want to acknowledge them and thank them for taking the time to be here. We have Board Member Earl Mann and Board Member John G. Wall. Thank you guys for coming today. I wanted to start by going back just a little bit and recapping some of where we were. And for those of you who have been involved in many meetings related to accreditation, some of what you hear today from myself and the other speakers may be a little bit redundant. We apologize in advance for that. But there are some of us here who have heard some parts of some of the information and not others. And there's some of us here who haven't had the opportunity yet to hear enough information. So as we kind of go back each time we meet and recount where we've been, it's a deliberate effort to repeat and kind of clarify and give us all a second chance, maybe even a third chance to hear some things and better understand them, okay? So first of all, we have a little handout that's circulating, and I wanted to spend a little time, because we've got it on paper now, just reiterating for all of you kind of what happened in our accreditation cycle and why in the 2012 accreditation were a couple of issues that in and of themselves may not seem like college closure level issues, ended up resulting in a fairly significant, in fact the most significant sanction that we could receive. So if you take a look at the sheet that we've handed out, and up at the top it says College of the Sequoias, why from full accreditation to show cause sanction. And actually, last time we were here, remember, I made a connection for you between our 2006 accreditation and our 2012 accreditation. And one of the things we've learned in the last month as we've been prepping, meeting, and researching is that we went back one more cycle to our 2000 accreditation. And I didn't have this information the last time I stood before you. And so what you can see in this little data table that's assembled here, on the far left, were recommendations from the 2000 accreditation. It's 2012, right? So that's 12-year-old recommendations for us. And interestingly enough, they're frighteningly familiar. The accreditation recommendation number 1, coordinate and integrate various college planning processes and develop a comprehensive educational plan. Recommendation number 3, review the faculty evaluation process, including tenure, review of faculty, and implement appropriate changes with all due speed. And then if you go a page over, page 2, and you look at the other accreditations from 2000, recommendation number 7, review the participatory governance structure comprised of the College Council and the extensive number of committees. The focus of this review should be on streamlining and simplifying the process to facilitate more direct access and communication between constituent groups and the superintendent president. And then the last recommendation, number 2 in 2000, place a greater focus on institutional outcomes assessment, in particular student learning outcomes as they relate to institutional effectiveness and accountability, campus leaders from all constituency groups, need to take proactive efforts in this area. So the last time we stood before you, we were able to share a little bit that we had the same 5 recommendations from 2006 reemerge in 2012. What we didn't realize until we went back and looked is that there's a fair amount of consistency in the same recommendations persisting all the way back to 2000. So while we've been diligent, I think, in our efforts to try to respond to accreditation, it makes a little bit more sense now, as uncomfortable as it has been for all of us, it makes a little bit more sense now why the Accrediting Commission would look at a college like ours over a 12-year period of time and question whether or not we have the institutional capacity to get some of these structural changes made and structural improvements put into place. So again, for me, I think it answers the question as to why. And it really doesn't matter much to any of us now about what we did or didn't do in the past, or who did or didn't hold the system accountable. I think what's most important now, and what I've learned by looking at this, is that it's probably really important now for all of us to become as educated as possible about the accreditation process and how it has evolved and changed. Because I think those of us who have been around for a while have seen the accreditation process evolve. And it has changed. But when you have an institution our size, which has upwards of 800 employees, when you include all adjunct and all classified employees and all faculty and all managers, and on this entire campus and on that large of faculty and staff, do you know how many members we have as an institution that have actually served to be a visiting team accreditation member to go out and accredit another community college, which is one of those activities that institutions do to learn about accreditation? We have 1. So we have a need, and I certainly have a need, to learn more and become more educated about accreditation, especially accreditation in 2013, which is different, evolving, but different even than accreditation in 2000. So as we take a look at what happened, I wanted to reiterate for you, what are we doing about it? In the last 4 weeks, a lot has happened. You know that we have formed an accreditation response task force, and that group of 40 plus faculty members, classified staff employees, and students have been faithfully meeting every week, every Thursday. We've taken that group of 40 folks, they've been divided up into smaller subgroups, and each of those 5 subgroups now are responsible for addressing one of the 5 recommendations that we have in the current show cause order. They've been reaching out to the broader scope of the campus, enlisting participation from faculty members and divisions from different departments and representatives. They've also been meeting periodically in between our weekly meetings. So the people who are rolling up their sleeves and really helping us in this process have, in some cases, committed to 2 or 3 extra meetings a week to start to work to address these issues. So we can't thank them enough, and I can't thank all of you enough, because in one way or another, if you haven't already, you will be engaged and you will be involved. And even if it's continuing to come to these meetings and participating through the committees that you're on or through your department or your division, you will continue to be involved. We've initiated and kicked off the Accreditation Community Advisory Committee. We have 25 members of the various communities, including Hanford, Tulare, and Visalia, that are now meeting every 2 weeks. They just met this last Friday. They come in, they get information from us. We give them updates similar to what we're giving you. We provide them with reports on the work of the task force and the subgroups. We enlist their feedback and input. They've helped us think of things like sending letters to our foundation donors, because all of a sudden we started to get questions from donors about whether or not we should continue our contributions to COS. They help us think about sending letters to COS alumni and those people who serve us in the community. So they're providing a valuable support for us, as well as becoming advocates for the college. Every 2 weeks when they leave with accurate information, they reach out to their churches, to their service clubs, to their communities, and they're serving as ambassadors for College of the Sequoias. They're also here every 2 weeks hoping to come and hear progressive updates. They want to hear that we're making progress. They want to see examples of the beginning draft of diagrams and charts and language that's being put together to shape our ultimate report. So they're also helping us by showing an interest in care for what we're doing and wanting to monitor that work, not to be our watchdog, but to be our support system. So I think that's been very effective as well. We've done some specific outreach to all of our feeder high schools. I think we have 9 or 10 feeder high schools. And then in addition to that, a number of continuation schools and charter schools. We started getting phone calls from the school counselors. We started getting phone calls from parents of seniors graduating this year. We started getting phone calls from those prospective students themselves asking, you know, if the only thing you rely upon is the headline that you read in the Times Delta, you might get the wrong information. And so, dang it. Is the paper here, Tony? Okay. We've been able to provide information to those high school faculties and counselors by going out and personally meeting with every high school faculty and group of counselors in all 10 of our feeder schools. And by this Friday, when we break for spring break, we will have personally, either myself or a member of senior management, stood in front of those faculties and those counselors with our fact sheets, our points of information, our quarter panels, and given them a status report, a status update, reassuring them in their confidence in College of the Sequoias. And you need to know that the feedback from those outreach opportunities has been incredibly positive. It's almost like every other kind of survey we tend to do in the community about College of the Sequoias. We're a very endeared institution to this region, and people genuinely want us to be successful. So there's a high degree of support out there for us, and that's just been reaffirmed by the efforts that we're taking to reach out to our high schools and our local parents and students. And so, in addition to those kind of big picture things, the task force, the weekly subgroup meetings, the Accreditation Community Advisory Committee, and the outreach that we've got built in, you know that we've got the comprehensive website underway now, more and more information building regularly. Stacy Nelson, thank you to her for the work that she's doing to help with that. Kristen Hollabaugh, Kevin McCusker, Amy Dwelly has most recently come on to help us with notes and posting and getting information on the website. So we're building the foundation of that documentary evidence that we're going to need to support our report. And it's all being collected now in one place so that when our visiting team finally does arrive in November, we're not going to have to gather up as many things as we may have had to in the past. We're building it all in one place from the very beginning. And we encourage all of you to frequent that and look and pay attention to the information that we're compiling there. Okay, as I look down now, I figured out that I just stepped onto about 3 of the first bullets that Jennifer was going to talk about. So with that in mind, I want to bring Jennifer up to give you a further update on the things that we're doing in terms of our internal work. And then she's also going to take the opportunity to introduce one of our 2 consultants who's been here with us for the last couple weeks helping us. So Dr. Lucerna, I'll ask you. I think she's going to be accompanied by our Academic Senate Chair, Michelle Estorez.
Yeah, so Stan covered everything I was going to talk about, but I can talk about the buttons. So we've also done a marketing campaign, so hopefully you all grab a button. And what we're looking at is COS 2.0. It's like the best version of the iPhone that you have. We're hitting the reset button, and by fall will be the newest version of COS 2.0. So we're wearing these buttons. They're on our site. It's kind of our logo that we're going forward with on accreditation. What I would like to do, Stan mentioned that we have about 40 people serving on our accreditation task force. And I'd like all of those people to stand up right now and be recognized. So if you guys, the task force, can stand up. That's part of the group of 40-plus people, faculty, students, staff, managers who are working on the team and have done extra hours all throughout the last 4 weeks to get going and doing a lot of work. A couple other things that we've done. We had a group of people who went to Cuesta College, and as you're aware, Cuesta College was in the exact same situation we are at this time last year. So we were able to go and meet with their academic senate president, their vice president of instruction, their president, and their faculty and other staff members to talk about the steps that they took. And everything from marketing to our students and the community to how they dealt with bringing in consultants and the different steps that they took throughout the last year to get to them to the point where they've now come off show cause and are on warning. Which you might go, wait, they're still on warning? Well, yeah, because they were also in an issue with the planning, and it takes a year to go through a planning cycle. So when the team came out, we said, you guys have done some really positive things, but we need a year to assess the work continues and how it stays sustainable in the college. So we were able to get a lot of information from them. Superintendent Carasosa and I have had conversations with Dr. Barbara Bino, who's the president of the commission, the Accrediting Commission for California Community and Junior Colleges. And so we've had conversations with her. We've been able to update her on our progress and the work that we're doing, and we will be in regular contact with her. We are attending several, we've been to a couple of Accrediting Commission trainings, and we're going to several more in March and April. We'll have some faculty attend. Superintendent Carasosa will be attending one. I will be attending one. And we're getting what he referenced to as educated as we can across the campus on what the requirements are for the standards from the Accrediting Commission. The other thing I wanted to touch on is I wanted Michelle to talk about the different things that Senate's been working on, so I'm going to have her come up right now.
Hi, I'm going to have to read from my notes because things are happening fast. But at our meeting last week, we approved all the faculty appointed to the response task force committees. And just a big thank you to all classified faculty and management serving on these committees. Your work is truly essential to bring the COS back to full accreditation. I'd also like to thank the campus newspaper, in particular Tony and David Pasillas, for all the work that they've been doing on keeping us informed, and the Associated Student Body for the forums that they've come up with. I have appointed Dr. Trimble, our incoming Senate President, as the official accreditation liaison. Where are you, Thea? There she is. Thank you for taking on this important role before your term begins in August. And as many of you know, she is on visiting teams at other colleges, so she is a wealth of information. We have been in contact with the State Academic Senate, which has offered us all kinds of help. Joni Jordan visited with Bakersfield City College last week to meet with their assessment coordinator. The State Senate President, Michelle Pilati, and I are in weekly contact, and she is available if you need a visit, as are the Senate Presidents from Cuesta and Maricosta colleges. We are clearing our agendas to review and approve the different planning manuals that are being developed by the response task force committees, and we will be doubling our meetings, and that could include emergency meetings. We are sending out our agendas and minutes to management and all faculty. You may have seen them, to improve communication. We are a Brown Act committee, and our agendas are posted 72 hours in advance of the meeting in the glass case at the corner of the administration building facing the quad. If you ever need any kind of information, please just email me.
So the other thing I would say is the message that we are sending out is that we are still fully accredited. We are a fully accredited college, and we are planning to stay fully accredited. So when you're in the coffee shop or at the barber shop or the grocery store, like me yesterday or Sunday at a soccer game, I heard someone talking about our accreditation, and the reason they thought we got an accreditation, it was so far off. So, but that's the message that we all need to be sending out. We are still fully accredited, and we plan to do the work to stay fully accredited. One of the things we've done is to get there and to stay there is to bring in some consultants who have worked very closely with the Accrediting Commission, but also have worked closely with other colleges to help them when they've had sanctions from the commission. And so one of our consultants is Dr. Bob Pacheco, and he is a faculty member who became a manager. He works at Maricosta College, and he's an expert in student learning outcomes. So he's been meeting via television, via internet with our student learning, our subcommittee number 2A, who is working on student learning outcomes. He's been meeting with them pretty regularly on Fridays, and he'll be out here in April for 2 visits that I will get you all the dates for when he'll be out. He'll be doing some training with managers on student learning outcomes, service area outcomes, and student service area outcomes. He'll be doing some work with faculty on program level and student level outcomes, and then he'll be doing some work with that subgroup. So he'll be out here in April and again in August. And our other consultant is here today, and I'm going to have Michelle introduce her.
Thank you. It is my great pleasure to introduce Dr. Eva Conrad. She began her educational career as a psychology professor, and she held that for 18 years. She later entered the administrative ranks as Vice President of Instruction at San Bernardino College before serving as the Executive Vice President at Moore Park Community College. From 2002 to 2008, she was the President of Moore Park College until her retirement. Her expertise in accreditation is extensive, and she has received many awards. I suggest that you read her bio. It will be placed on our accreditation website. She is currently a consultant with the College Brain Trust. Knowing that I would be introducing her, I looked at my notes from the last 2 meetings when I met with her, and this is what I come away with. She's a breath of fresh air. She doesn't mince words. And finally, she's someone who sees where we are and what we can become.
Thank you, Michelle. What Michelle really means is I've been brutally honest. I've managed to insult everybody in the room at least once in every meeting. So here I go again. I am honored to be here. It is a joy to be here. You have an incredibly beautiful campus. You have an incredibly dedicated group of people who are working, as Michelle just described, time and a half to make it all happen. You're probably wondering what happened between 2000 and 2012. Some of you in this room, probably many of you in this room, are saying, well, I remember being on a committee and we developed a planning model. What happened to that? I remember sitting in my division meeting and making plans. What happened to that? I remember looking at data ad nauseum with the researchers, no offense, right? And we're not getting credit for that. The issue is, from the perspective of the standards, and what the standards really are best practices. How do the best colleges function? That's all the accreditation standards mean. They don't say it very well. They say it in clumsy, awkward language. If any of you have struggled to understand the standards, just remember they were written by a committee. So it's understandable how difficult they are. But you all have consistently, since 2000, done a lot of work on planning. You've done a lot of work on student learning outcomes. I'm not so sure about how much work you've done on dialogue, but you've been doing a lot of dialogue. It's just some of it has been nasty. So that has to stop. So you've been working on these things. Why didn't you get credit for it? And I'm sure, maybe only after a glass of wine, but I'm sure some of you have said, it's that darn commission, or it's that hateful Dr. Beano. These are the people responsible for us being in trouble. And that's not true. So step one is a reality check. Yes, indeed, you've been doing a lot of work since 2000 on student learning outcomes, on research. You've been doing a lot of dialogue. I refuse on that one to say you've been doing a lot of good work on it. You've been doing a lot of work on planning. But it isn't sustainable. The fact that You've made a planning model, you put it into practice for a semester, and then you throw it out and start over. Or every time a new college president comes, he or she says, I know all about planning. I'm going to tell you how to do it the right way. Throw out everything you've ever done, and you won't let them. Not anymore. I'm working with subgroup 1, and we're building a document that you will see very soon called Integrated Planning at College of the Sequoias 2013. Doesn't that sound good? Yeah. Okay, we'll get buttons made for that too. What this document is going to do is articulate your planning process. And the next time you have a new dean or a new faculty member or a new administrative assistant come to campus, you're going to hand this document to them. Especially if you have a new college president. You're going to say, this is how we do planning at College of the Sequoias. You are not going to wait and perpetuate the churning that has been happening. Your history, with a lot of time and effort on planning, your history has not resulted in the kind of outcomes that you want because you keep changing your models. Some of your models are good. Just looking a little bit online, I could find 7 different models that you all have had in the last decade. Stop. Stop. You're going to, Stan and Jennifer and Michelle will show you a new model pretty soon, probably in the next few weeks. You all are going to sit here and say, oh God, what's to keep this from being exactly the same thing? You are what's going to keep this from being exactly the same thing. Because the next time somebody wants to show you a new model, you're going to say, no, we have a model, it's written down, it's online, we have this document, and not only do we have a new model, but I can say it to you. As a faculty member, as an administrative assistant, as a new dean, I know this model so well that I can draw it out for you. That's what's going to happen. Same true with working with subgroup 4 on writing a document. And already, Steve, where are you? I forgot what we decided to call it today.
District governance.
No, what is the title of our document? Making,
Participatory governance at COS.
we didn't call it participatory governance. Well, whatever we called it, you'll see it soon. Can you tell it's still draft? There we go. Governance and decision making at College of the Sequoias 2013. Is that it? Okay. So what this document is going to do is outline, is going to do one of the things you have to do in the standards, which is make decision making transparent. Okay? Michelle has been in these conversations talking about we need some operating agreements. And it's kind of like the rules of the dance, or the rules of engagement. How are we going to treat each other in these committees? What is the scope of responsibilities of different committees? And what does a committee mean? A work group getting together to put the catalog together is not a committee. Okay? So you've had 12 years of accrediting teams tell you that you have too many committees. We're going to see a lean and mean and more effective model really soon. When these models come out, both for planning and for governance and decision making, you all play a crucial role. If this were any other time, we could have a bright new idea like a planning model, and it would go out of that work group to the academic senate. Everybody on the academic senate would take it out to their divisions and departments, and we'd get feedback, and then, it could take 3 months. You don't have 3 months. So instead, we're going to have to shift to a different sort of mode in this moment. There cannot be business as usual. And one of the ways we're not going to have business as usual is all of these documents are going to go out to everybody on campus, all at the same time. We're still going to ask Senate to take a careful look and approve things that they need to approve. But we can't do the normal dance here because we simply don't have those months. So the Senate is going to get it at the same time that the whole world gets it. We're going to need all the feedback coming back in. And we're going to have to do really quick turnaround time. Midnight oil has just begun. So when you get these emails from Jennifer or Stan or whomever is in charge of sending them out, saying, please read this and respond. Please, you don't have to read the whole thing. Look at the table of contents, pick out your favorite 3 pages, and read it. The more people who are reading it, the better. The more feedback we get, the better. Because what we're after is a change of the past. Not models that we're going to throw away, but models that we're going to commit to living with for a while, and processes that we're going to commit to that include assessment. So if we build a model, something in planning, I'm going to meet in the next hour with the program review group. If you build a program review process and you decide to change it, that's not a bad thing. As long as you have a process in place to do that assessment, as long as you know when you're going to get feedback from people, and you're going to do continuous quality improvement. Any of this make any sense? What we're after is not having a cult of personality. What we're after is building processes that will thrive with this college and will help this college thrive. Processes that are greater than one individual's participation and passion. And you can do it. You're already there. Look at the dedication to the people who are already working on these. The rest of it is just technicalities. You're in great shape, and I'm honored to be with you all. Thank you.
Man, they are.
You notice how nicely you didn't say, oh my God, Lee, you are so much older than I am.
Okay, to try to help us close this most recent session, I want to share a couple of things. You know, we've talked about the need for us to become more educated as a campus, to become more educated as a staff and faculty, to have a better general knowledge and understanding across the board of accreditation. And I wanted to just share a couple of things that we're doing to try to begin that process and try to sustain it. Jennifer had mentioned some of the trainings that we'll be going to. Having our consultants here now is a tremendous form of staff development for all of us. Having the opportunity to be able to share that in our various meetings is going to be significant as well. We had a planning summit, a collection, and many of you participated, many of you who represent different leadership entities on this campus, coming together in anticipation of Eva's arrival, talking about our common planning models and what they look like. And in that setting, Thea, as one of our resident experts, really did begin explaining and kind of teaching a broader mass about the eligibility requirements, about the accreditation standards, and about how best to interpret those as a way to make the institution better. I think one of the conceptual shifts we're probably going to have to make is that for a long time, and it's no one's fault, it's just how the business ran, I think when accreditation didn't have the expectation for change that it has in the last decade, we went through the accreditation process as an event. It came, it landed, and it left. Right? We spent some time almost like getting ready for the holidays or a Thanksgiving dinner, getting our house in order, cleaning everything up, writing some beautiful things on paper, showing that report to the visitors when they arrived, getting a pat on the head as they left, waiting for our report to come, getting that report back, going, thank you, we all did a good job, and we all doing a good job could have been 2 or 3 of us writing the whole report and sharing it individually with folks to make sure. You remember those prep sessions we would do? Before the accreditation team comes, let's talk to everybody they're going to talk to. And let's make sure they know the things that are in the report. That's that kind of superficial event that accreditation used to be. And whether we've caught up with it or not, I think we're there now. The truth now is, it isn't an event anymore. Accreditation is kind of a way of life. And if we want to live it day to day with a good planning model, a clear decision-making model, a way that we evaluate our processes, a way that we allocate resources in accordance with those processes, we're not going to have to dust off the table and clean anything up when the visiting team comes. A good accreditation is people showing up and seeing great business as usual. And so I think that's a mind shift for us now. And what we're trying to build in here, this education that we're talking about, will be for all of us to understand the accreditation standards better, not so that we can pass a test every 6 years, but so that we have a way of continually improving our institution through good practices. And then when the team just happens to show up, great, come on in, take a look at what we do. It won't be overwhelming for us to prepare a report. We've also had the attendance, as Jennifer said, of a few of our staff to some of the workshops and conferences, and that will continue. And one of the things that was highly recommended, and we've taken this advice, is that we contact the ACCJC and that we actively now request that our management team and our faculty leaders be considered to be placed on visiting teams to go do accreditation for other colleges. I opened this session by telling you we have one of us out of over 800, thank you, Dr. Trimble, who actually has gone out and done visitations. We need to have a broader base of that. Because the more of us that do that, that understand it, that kind of live it, that's probably the best form of training and staff development we can have to do it well as a faculty ourselves. So the last thing I guess I want to close with, Jennifer mentioned earlier the visit we made to Cuesta, and I got an opportunity to talk to Dr. Stork, their president there. And he has an interesting story because he's come back to be their president after having retired. He had a wonderful career there, a fabulous tenure. He retired, he rode off into the sunset. Cuesta Community College hired a new college president, and after a year, they made a change. It didn't work, so they brought in an interim. And when they brought in the interim, during that interim period, they had their accreditation. And during that interim period, with the interim president and an accreditation cycle concluding, they got placed in an order for show cause. So the interim was no longer interim, nor were they permanent. And they asked Dr. Stork to come back. So he came back, not having to, didn't need to, didn't want to, but came back to kind of lead them and provide the support and experience that he could in the process. And he said that one of the most sobering moments for him is when he came to the realization of what their expectations could be coming off of show cause. And this was pretty sobering for me as well, and so I need to share it with all of you today, only so that you don't hear it anywhere else, and that we understand what the range of possibilities are for us following October. Because we're going to work hard through the spring. Many of us are going to spend time here this summer. We're going to fine-tune what we need to submit and begin implementing more fully in August. And by September, we're going to have our report going through the final stages before it's submitted in October. A visiting team will be back here to spend another week with us. A new team, by the way. A different group. A new set of eyes in November. After the November team visit, they write up their final report and they submit it to the commission, and the commission meets in January of 2014. And we get our notification in February, similar to the time frame we did this year. And what Dr. Stork taught me is that the range of things that can happen in an accreditation response goes from fabulous to, incredibly bad. And fabulous is that you're fully reaffirmed and you are accredited and you have excellent status and a glowing report. And the worst case scenario is, in a situation like ours, you didn't meet enough of the compliance and your college begins to implement its order for closure. And so he felt like he could, in good faith, say to his institution what I'm about to say to you right now, because I believe we are every bit as good or better than Cuesta Community College, with all due respect. And he said, I don't believe it's realistic for us to think that we're going to go from a show cause order to fully affirmed and glowing in the dark and walking on water. Because there isn't enough time to show a complete cycle of our work. He also said, I don't believe we're going to be non-compliant to the point where we are going to have to close this college. So he said, let's take those two extremes off the table. Here's the range of things we can hope for. And this is one I didn't know until the visit. He said, your first mark of success coming off of show cause is that you get your show cause order extended. So you stay on the show cause for another semester because we need more time to see your implementation come to pass. And that's a mark of improvement. That's a, believe it or not, the way that feels right now, that's a good thing. Because the alternative was you didn't do well enough to implement your closure plan. So level number one on the happy meter for us would be, we want to extend our show cause. We want another semester to show what we've designed and implemented is going to do the trick. Level two on the happy meter is you could get placed back on probation. And I think the way that works is depending not only on what we do, but how well we show our plan and our timeline and our cycle for implementing continuously over time improvement will move us off of that lower end of the meter to possibly that opportunity to be back on probation. So this is where being on probation is even better than having your show cause extended. And then the final level would be the best we could probably hope for is you move past the show cause extension, you're not on probation, things look so good, we're going to move you guys up to your warning. You're going to be back on warning because it looks pretty good, and if we can check at the end of the semester and everything that you've done and say you'll do is in place, then warning is going to be your happy dance. And so I guess what I wanted to do is make sure you were all aware of that, because in my mind, and I don't want to set the bar low, but I think we all need to realize that anything from an extension of our show cause to being put on warning is a success in this process for College of the Sequoias right now. And just like we didn't know how that commission would respond when they came to read our report this last time, we're going to do everything humanly possible to respond and implement this time, but they still have to see it, read it, and interpret it. And we want it to be good enough, strong enough, to make sure that at a minimum we extend our show cause, and beyond that, we maybe can get probation or even placed back on warning. And who'd have thought we'd be ever be hoping, well, please put us on warning, please. But we have some control over that, and the more that we work on it, the more I understand what the depth of implementation and planning needs to be now for us to move that needle over as far as we possibly can. Okay? So that's the kind of latest, greatest update on things that are happening. Again, we want to thank you so much. Are there any questions that anybody has that we can answer for you today? We have Dr. Conrad here, we have Michelle, we have Jennifer. Anything from either Senate, management, or consultant perspective that we can answer for you, and we'll do the very best to do that. Yes?
How does the APs and VPs, all the things you did when you have heavy research about, how does that fit into the new governance procedures?
Well, I think what's going to happen is what we're doing at our level is we're cross-referencing any structural changes that are being proposed. For example, the planning model and the governance decision-making model have to be cross-referenced with current policy and administrative procedure. And if the way that they're designed to work now, based on the accreditation standards and best practices, is different than what we have in procedure and policy, we're going to be proposing revisions to those procedures and policies. They will have, our VPs and APs need to line up with the best practices in the accreditation standards. Yes?
Well, I couldn't hear the question, so I'm not sure that...
Her question was, what about the board policies and administrative procedures we currently have? How might they be affected by changes we make?
Oh, I see, yeah. For instance, the new, 1420, or the one that gives the board kind of blanket ability to make any decision. How does
That's being proposed and being brought before Senate and the various groups for revision to try to clarify the role that the board has in final authority under the education code versus how it's currently written in our board policy. So it would be a companion piece. In some version, however it's passed, it's going to be a companion piece to support what the education code says, which is ultimately your governing board has the final authority on everything except a handful of issues from which they take recommendations from the Senate. Anything else? Okay, well, you have been fabulous today. Thank you so much, and we'll see you again soon.